Okay, so we're up to Daf Ayin Dalin Amid Beis, the Tanur Rabbanon. So this brisa, let me just tell you about this brisa. This brisa lists three opinions that all basically seem to be saying the same thing. And what we're going to have to try to figure out is what is the difference between these shitas. Tanur Rabbanon. Ben Teisha Shana v'Yemechad. You have a 9-year-old kid. 9-year-old kid is the old enough, it's the earliest age that his bia is considered a halachic bia. So it doesn't have to be 9. It's basically you have a man. Ger Amoini, Moyavi, Mitzri, Ve'edoimi. He's a convert, he's an Amoin convert, a Moyav convert, an Egyptian convert, an Edom convert, Kusi, Nesin, Chol, Mamzer, or any of these four. So he's someone who the average Jew is not allowed to marry. Yeah? The halacha is, Shabal Kehenes Valviya Babas Yisrael, if he has relations with a Jewish woman, she's Pasal Kahuna. Okay. Fine. So, meaning, we're familiar that you're pasal kahuna if you live with a guy. Now he's saying, if you live with a mamzi, you're pasal kahuna. If you live with a convert who's a mitzvah, you're pasal kahuna. Any person that is not allowed to live with that person is pasal kahuna. Shine. Okay, very good.
I understand that he's a ger mitzri.
So he's not allowed to marry a regular Jew for 3 generations.
So, let's say 3 generations.
Yeah, so obviously it's within 3 generations. The point is, all of these people make her pasal kahuna. Very simple, very nice. That's the Tanakama. Okay. Rav Yosi Omer. Rav Yosi then says a line which seems to be the same thing. He says, Kol shezare pasal, paisal. V'chol she'ein zare pasal, ein pasal. Rav Yosi says, if your kid is pasal, you're a pasal. If your kid's not pasal, you're not pasal. Now all these people, the kid's a pasal. Right? A mamzer's kid is a mamzer. A chol's kid is a chol. A mitzvah's kid is a mitzvah. So what exactly is Rav Yosi saying? He's basically saying the same thing, just he's reframing it about kids. But it's the same thing. All these people, kids are puzzle. Meaning if your kid is puzzle, if your kid can't marry a regular Jew, then you're puzzle, and then you make a woman puzzle kahuna. I'm not sure what Rav Yosi is adding. Okay, let's keep going. Then you have Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Kol shata noisa bitoy ata noisa manuasai. V'chol sheyata noisa bitoy ata ena manuasai. He says it's not about the sons, it's about the daughters. If the daughter is pasal kahuna, then if that person's daughter is pasal kahuna, then if you live with her, you also pasal kahuna. Same thing though. A mamzer's daughter is a mamzeres. A chalol's daughter is a chalala. So what is Hashem Gamliel adding? So they all basically are saying the same thing, which is these 8 types of Jews pasal kahuna. So what is the machlokes between these two? So let's analyze the first opinions and we'll go through. Again, the first opinion was the Tanakama who said that Mamzer, Nesin, Cholol, Kuti, Convert Amoni, Kama Moav, Kama Mitzri, Kama Adomi. These 8 people are Pasal Kahuna. If they live with a person, she's Pasal Kahuna. Okay, fine. So then comes Rav Yosi and he says, if their kid is Pasal, then they Pasal. Okay, it's the same thing. So what is Rav Yosi coming to clarify? Ma'ika bein Tanakam Rav Yosi. What's the difference? Rav Yochanan Mitzri Shein Ika. Now you know the difference is a 2nd generation Mitzri. You're okay. I'm a 1st generation Mitzri convert. You're my son. You're my 2nd generation Mitzri convert. Now you're not allowed to marry a regular Jew, but your kid can.
That's the 3rd generation.
That's the 3rd. But you, as the 2nd generation, live with a Jewish woman. Is she pasal kahuna? According to Tanakam, yes, because you're in that 8 categories. If you're in that 8 categories, you're out. Rav Yosi says no. You only pasal kahuna if your kid is pasal kahuna. Your kid is not. So Rav Yosi was coming specifically to permit that if a 2nd generation Mitzri lives with a Jewish woman, she's not pasal kahuna, because the 2nd generation Mitzri's kids are not pasal kahuna. So 7 out of 8 he agrees with. That's the case where he disagrees. You understand? So the Tanakama just says all Mitzri converts are, if they're pasal, they're pasal. So the first 2 generations pasal. Rav Yosi says no, it's about their kids. If their kids are fine, then they're fine. Again, it doesn't mean they're allowed to. Obviously, it just means that they don't pasal kahuna. So according to Rav Yosi, because a 2nd generation's kids is not pasal kahuna, he can marry a regular Jew. A 2nd generation will not invalidate a woman by living with her. So that's the machlokes. The machlokes of Rav Yosi and the Rabbanon is, what do you say about a 2nd generation? He on his own, he's pasal, but his kid won't be. So the question is there any more leniency that if he lived with a woman, maybe she's not pasal kahuna? So it's sort of how you look at it. From his perspective, she's pasal kahuna because he's pasal. But the fact that his kids will be okay, maybe he's not pasal her from kahuna. That's the point. The Gemara says, Shneim leilam duam kain gadol v'amana. They're both learning it out from kain gadol and amana. The source that someone's pasal kahuna, they picked a kohen gadol from an almana. Now, a kohen gadol from an almana is interesting. It depends how you look at it. If you say, well, a kohen gadol can't marry an almana, and if he lives with her, she's pasal kahuna. So a second generation mitzvah can't marry a pasal kahuna. We say, no, an almana kohen gadol, the kids are also pasal. Second generation kids are not. So that's the question of how you look at it. The Tanakama savar ki kohen gadol b'almana. The Tanakama compares it to a kohen gadol almana. Ma kohen gadol b'almana should be yaseh b'aveira paisel, but just like a kohen gadol and almana is a relationship that is not allowed, and it makes the woman pasal for kahuna. Avkol should be yaseh. Avkol should be yaseh b'aveira paisel. So to any generation, any relationship that invalidates the person is making a pasal. Meaning, according to this, a second generation mitzri would be a problem. Rabbi Yossi says no. Ki kohen gadol b'almana. A second generation is not going to be an issue if he lives with a woman. She's not possible. Why? Because he compares it to kohen gadol b'almana. Ma kohen gadol b'almana shezari pasul pasul. Kohen gadol b'almana is not just a relationship that's usher. Their kids are also pasul. Right? If a kohen gadol b'almana have a baby, the kid's a cholol. So therefore, maybe that's why it's a problem. Avkol shezari pasul pasul lafuki mitzri shein zari pasul shenemar banim damar kra banim asher yivadu lam dar shushiva b'kal Hashem. But a second generation mitzri whose kids are permitted, so if he lives with a woman, she's not pasul kahuna. So that's the machlokes. So the Tanakama just answers all 8 categories. Rav Yossi says a second generation mitzri that lives with a woman is not pasul kahuna. You understand?
Yeah, I understand. The only thing I don't understand is about the kohen gadol.
Well, a kohen gadol and amana is the example of a relationship that makes a woman pasul for kahuna.
That I get, but a question: the next generation.
The kid's pasul. Meaning, if a kohen gadol and amana have a baby, the kid's not a kohen; he's chalal.
Right, and
But second generation mitzvah is one of the only cases where they're usher, but their kids are mutter.
So I don't get why they're making a comparison then.
No, so that's his point. Meaning, the source that a woman will become pasul for kahuna with an invalid relations is almana l'kohen gadol. The question is a second generation mitzvah comparable? That's the point. If you're saying it's not comparable, that's where Rav Yossi comes in. He says it's not comparable, therefore it's not going to be an issue. Now so the Tanakama and then Rav Yossi are arguing about a second generation mitzvah. Then what is Rav Shimon Gamliel coming to add? Rav Shimon Gamliel oimer kol shata noisa bita noisa menusai v'chol shiata noisa bita ita noisa menusai. Rav Shimon Gamliel says to Rav Yossi, it's not about the kids, it's about the daughter. What is he talking about? My ikka ben Rav Yossi Rav Shimon Gamliel. What is Rav Shimon Gamliel coming to discuss? So Amar Ula ger amayni umeavi ikka. He's talking about the following. You have a ger amayn, a ger from Amin and Moav that lives with a woman. Is she pasul kahuna? According to Tanakami, yes. According to Rav Yossi, yes, because you can't marry his kids. His kids is Ammon also, but his daughter is permitted. Right? If an Ammon has a baby, what's the status of the baby? Ammon men, problem. Ammon women, mutter. Rav Yossi looks at the boy. And he says, if an Ammon lives with someone, the boy's going to be an issue. Therefore, if an Ammon lives with someone, she's pasul kahuna. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, look at the daughter. In Ammon and Moav, the daughters are going to be fine. So if they live with someone, if an Ammon or Moav lives with someone, they're not pasul kahuna. Why? Because their daughters are going to be fine. It's only an issue if all their kids are going to be a problem. If any of their daughters or sons are going to be okay, then we're fine. So the machlokes of Rav Yossi and Gamliel is if a convert from Ammon or Moav lives with a Jew, is she pasul kahuna? Rav Yossi says yes, because the sons are going to be pasul. Rav Gamliel says no, because the daughters are not.
So according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, kohen gadol.
Well, a kohen gadol, both kids are a problem. That's the point. That's exactly the point. He compares it to a kohen gadol. Kohen gadol, almana, both kids are a problem, as opposed to Ammon and Moav, where the daughters are okay. That's exactly the point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So from Ammon and Moav, if a woman marries, theoretically, it's obviously not going to happen, but the kohen gadol.
That's fine.
It's no problem.
A female Ammon. Well, no, she might be a convert, so there's going to be a problem. But the point is, whatever, 2 generations down, whatever. Yeah, then it's fine. The Gemara continues. Ger Ammon and Moav ikemenayu. Shneim lo lamdu am kohen gadol b'almana. Rav Yossi says kohen gadol b'almana. Rav Yossi says the source is kohen gadol b'almana. Ma kohen gadol b'almana shezari pasul poisel, just like kohen gadol and almana. The kids are a problem. Avkol shezari pasul poisel. So to anyone whose children are an issue, meaning ger Ammon and Moav, the boys are a problem. Therefore, it's an issue. Rav Shimon Gamliel savar kohen gadol b'almana. Ma kohen gadol b'almana shekol zari pasul poisel. Avkol shezari pasul poisel afilu nekevis. Lafuki ger Ammon Moav. Then nekevis have a ksheris lavi b'kol. Damar Ammon v'lei amoinis Moav v'lei me'avis. Rav Shimon Gamliel says no. It's only an issue if both your kids are a problem. But Ammon and Moav, whose daughters are going to be okay, will not invalidate a woman from being pasul kahuna. Okay, a couple more things. couple more things on this Amud. Amr of Chizda, Hakol Moedim, everyone agrees, all the Tanaim agree, Almonas Isa Shepsula L'Kuhuna, that an Almon, the widow of a doe is Pasal Kuhuna. So what does this mean? So there's two pshatim of Rashi and Taisus. I'm going with Taisus pshat because Rashi's pshat is a little bit harder to fit into the Gemara. Taisus pshat is as follows. You have a cholol, right? A cholol is a kohen who's invalid. Right? If a divorcee marries a kohen, the kid's a cholol. So a cholol, if a cholol lives with a woman, she's pasal kuhuna. Here's the case. You have a family of 5 daughters. They all got married. And they married different men. They know that one of the husbands is a cholol. One of the husbands is a cholol. They just don't know. One of the husbands, is a suffix cholol. They're not sure. And they don't even know which one. Meaning, there's a man who's a suffix cholol, right? So let's say the man is not sure whether his mom was a divorcee or not. Okay? Let's say there was a shaila, she either got divorced or she got widowed, he never found out. Okay? So he is a suffix cholol, right? Let's say, because again, his mom had... Father's a kohen. Mom had a first marriage that either ended with divorce or widow. They couldn't figure out. So that kid is called a suffix cholol. He marries one of 5 daughters. The daughters know there's a cholol in the family. They just don't know which one. I don't know. I guess the rabbi once said, one of your son-in-laws is a cholol, whatever. 2 Adam said, one of your son-in-laws is a cholol. We just can't figure out which one. Okay, whatever the case is. So each widow might have married a suffix cholol. All of them are pasal kuhuna. All those 5 daughters, if they all become widows, they're all pasal kuhuna. Because maybe they're the one who's married to a suffix cholol. That's called almanas isa. Okay. So why is it an issue? Man mekel kani tanoi, because who is the most lenient? Rishim Gamliel. Velkamer, right? Rishim Gamliel is the one who's lenient that if you live with an Ammon and Moab, you're not pasal kuhuna. But Rishim Gamliel says, Kol shat noisa bita noisa manusai. Rishim Gamliel was only lenient by Ammon and Moab, but this case he holds as an issue. So he holds it's a problem. Lafukim, because she might have been married to a suffix cholol.
So he's just maker when it comes to Ammon and Moab.
Correct, because the children are going to be for sure permitted. This woman is a suffix cholol, is married to a suffix cholol, so she might have been invalidated. Therefore, we're going to say it's an issue.
So I was thinking that in the previous Gemara we were talking about with the suffix mamzeris, where we ruled that the suffix mamzeris they're okay.
Correct. This is in a way more strict. Yeah. Correct. That's a shtuki is a suffix mamzer, but this is going to be way more strict. Now the Gemara says. We're being strict with this suffix cholol widow. There are poskim that are lenient. Why? And I'll tell you why at the end. It'll make a lot of sense. Titanan, Rav Yeshua, Rav Yudim and Beseira, Almanas Isa Shekher Lakuna. Rav Yeshua and Rav Yudim and Beseira said it's fine. Why? My time have a seksveika. Seksveika lakula. It's called a seksveika. It's a double suffix. Why? Suffix she's married to the guy, maybe she's not. Right? She doesn't know if her husband was the suffix cholol. Maybe her husband wasn't. Even if he was, maybe he's not a cholol. So it's like suffix he's a cholol 50%. Suffix she's married to the guy down to 25%. Right? Statistically, it's an improbability that she's actually puzzled. Therefore, it's called a seksveika. A seksveika lakula. So that's the shita of Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda Beseira, and Rav Yeshua. Okay, right in the Gemara. Rav Eliezer said in the Mishnah, "Vadan bevadan mutarin, bevadei bevadei mutar." Okay, so we said in the Mishnah that Rav Eliezer shita is that a mamzer can marry a mamzer, but a shtuki can't marry a mamzer, and a shtuki can't marry an asufi, and a asufi can't marry, right? We don't mix breeds, according to Rav Eliezer. Now, if you remember, the first Mishnah in this parak said, Asara yuchsin alul abavel. There were 10 categories, and it said, a shtuki, asufi, mamzer, nesin are all mutter to each other. Rav Eliezer disagrees with the first Mishnah. Okay. So the Gemara continues. The Gemara says like this. Amar Rav Yehuda Rav, halacha k'Rav Eliezer. The halacha follows Rav Eliezer. The halacha follows Rav Eliezer that a sufi cannot marry a mamzer, an asufi can't marry a shtuki can't marry a mamzer. All of these are a problem. So that was what Rav Yehuda Rav said. Ki amrisa kamei de Shmuel. When Shmuel heard about this, Amar Lei, he said, Hillel shoyna asara yuchsin all above v'kulam mutar lo b'zev atam halacha Rav Eliezer. You forget the first Mishnah. The first Mishnah in the parak said, Hillel said there were 10 generations that went up, and he listed, if you look in the first Mishnah, in Asara Yuchsin, We had it before. Asar yuchsan al bavel, kana levi yisrael chol gebavel, and it says who's mutter to each other. Geri, Charuri, Mamzeri, Nesini, Shtuki, Asufi, Kulam Mutarim. So you're telling me we're passing like Rav Eliezer. You forgot the first Mishnah. Therefore, he says we don't pass like Rav Eliezer. We pass them, they're all mutter to each other, not like Rav Eliezer. Okay, fine. Now, let's just go. There's one more sugya. It's a quick back and forth. And then we're going to get us to the second Amid. The second Amid is not very complicated. It's like this. Right now, Rav is saying that we pass them like Rav Eliezer, that a shtuki and an asufi are not allowed to marry a mamzer. Shtuki and asufi are a problem. And you have Shmuel, who said, we pass him that they are mutter. So Shmuel says mutter, Rav says aser, by a shtuki and asufi. The Gemara says, V'rami de Rava de Rav, V'rami de Shmuel de Shmuel. You have a contradiction. How so? De Itmar. Arusa she'ibra. You have a woman who got engaged, so she had Kiddushin. All of a sudden she's pregnant. So we don't know who's the baby, who's the father. So that's what we call a shtuki. You don't know who the father is. Right? So it says that, what did Rav say? Havlad mamzer. The kid is a mamzer. Now the kid's not a mamzer, the kid's a shtuki. So what did he mean by that? What he probably meant is that shtuki can marry a mamzer. Right? He said that child who's a shtuki is a mamzer. He's not actually a mamzer, he's a shtuki. So what did Rav mean? Rav must have meant that child who you don't know who the father is, who's a shtuki, is mutter to a mamzer. So before we said that Rav is machmer, that a shtuki cannot marry a mamzer, but isn't that what Rav is saying? Again, you have a baby, the mother, we don't know who the father is. The mother's pregnant. So Rav said the baby's a mamzer. The kid's not a mamzer, the kid's a shtuki. So why is he saying he's a mamzer? Because he's mutter to a mamzer. So it must be Rav's lenient. Rav before was strict, now Rav's lenient. Shmuel says Haflad Shtuki. Shmuel said, no, the kid's a Shtuki, meaning, and it's a problem. So Shmuel, who said before lenient, is now strict. Rav before, who said strict, is now lenient. The Gemara continues. Rav Amar Haflad Mamzer. Rav is calling the Shtuki a Mamzer, meaning Umutter be Mamzeres, that the Shtuki is mutter with a Mamzeres, not like what Rav said before. And Shmuel says Haflad Shtuki v'aser be Mamzeres. So the Shita Mamish reversed. Again, Rav started off by saying we pass it like Rav Eliezer that a shtuki is not mutter to a mamzer, but now he's calling the shtuki a mamzer because they are mutter to each other. So that's a contradiction. Shmuel before said we pass it like Hillel that shtuki is mutter with a mamzer, but now he's calling this kid a shtuki that he's not mutter with a mamzer. So it's a straight up contradiction. So the Gemara says epuch, reverse the names, meaning switch out the names to make it that Rav is consistently strict, Shmuel is consistently lenient. Okay, so switch the names. Now here's the problem. When you switch the names, in essence what you're saying is Rav and Shmuel are repeating themselves. Right? They said it before once. And now we had a contradiction. But change the contradiction. It's not a contradiction. Reverse the names. Right? It's not a contradiction anymore. Reverse the names. So now if you reverse the names, the problem is it's now unnecessary. Now they're just repeating themselves. So the Gemara says, why do you need them to say their opinion twice? The answer is Sricha, it's needed. Itmar baha kamerav mishum derive ksherim etzla aval hasam derive psulam etzla imaydil shmuel itmar bahach bachamerav mishum deikka limitel barus av baha imaydil shmuel tzricha. I'll tell you why it's necessary. This case is a little bit more complicated than the other case. The average case, again, Rav's opinion is that the average shtuki is talking about a case of the mom's single, right? So kid, we don't know who the father is, but statistically, kid's probably not a mamzer, right? It's probably just her boyfriend, right? This case, she had Kiddushin with someone. She's a married woman. Statistically, the baby is probably a mamzer, because unless she's pregnant from her husband, every other person would make the kid a mamzer. So the reason why these two cases need to be repeated is one case is where she's a single woman, and that has that halachas. The other case where she's married. On the other hand, this case is a little bit better because maybe the reason why you could be lenient. You see, the case where she's already had Kiddushin and then she's pregnant, in a way, very strict, in a way, very lenient. I'll tell you why. In a way, very strict, because she's a married woman, statistically, the kid is probably a mamzer, right? Because every other person would make the kid a mamzer. Do you understand what I'm saying? I feel like I'm saying words. Does anybody? Huh?
I don't understand.
In the case where she's pregnant when she's already married, and she just shows up pregnant. She had Kiddushin, she shows up pregnant. In a way that's better, in a way that's worse. In a way it's worse because unless she had a kid from her husband, that kid's a mamzer. She's a married woman, ish. So statistically, probably a mamzer, as opposed to when she was pregnant. But in a way it's better because you at least know, you could say, she probably had it with her husband. Meaning, when a woman shows up single, pregnant, there's no good option. She's not supposed to be pregnant from anybody. But on the other hand, she's single, so statistically, it's probably not a mamzer. Over here, she shows up and she's had Kiddushin, and she's pregnant. So yes, statistically, the kid's probably a mamzer. On the other hand, you could just say, I would think likelihood is she probably lived with her fiance. So it just depends on how you look at it. Therefore, it needs to be repeated twice. Again, they're trying to figure out probabilities. A woman shows up pregnant, you got to try to figure out who had the baby. So when she had Kiddushin already, then she shows up pregnant, in a way, you could be very strict, but in a way, you could be lenient. You could be very strict and say, well, statistically, unless it's her fiance, who she's not allowed to have relations with until the chuppah anyway, she's a married woman. So every person on planet Earth can imams her. On the other hand, you could say, well, but yeah, maybe most likely she probably had relations with her fiance, in which case the kid's not a mamzer. So that's why you have to repeat itself twice. Okay. What was the problem that we started with? The problem was as follows. Again, I know it's tough, but you got to just try to focus because this is the only part that's a little bit tricky. Rav originally paskined like Rav Eliezer that a shtuki is not allowed to marry a mamzer. Shmuel paskined like Hillel that a shtuki is permitted to marry a mamzer. So machlokes whether a shtuki is permitted to marry a mamzer or not. The problem is you have this case where a married woman shows up pregnant. What did Rav say? Havlad mamzer. Why he's not a mamzer? He's a shtuki. The answer is mutter. The kid's a mamzer and he's mutter with another mamzer. Meaning the kid's a shtuki, but he's mutter. So Rav before is strict. Now Rav is being lenient. Shmuel called the kid a shtuki, seemingly saying the kid's a shtuki and also with a mamzer. The problem is Shmuel before was lenient. So it's a contradiction. So we said switch the names. But now we're saying Iba Yisema no. No. You don't have to switch the names. Umay mamzer to come Rav, lav mutter b'mamzeres, el to aser b'bas Yisrael. Ushma mavar shtuki to aser b'bas Yisrael. Really, Rav and Shmuel both are saying aser. Meaning, when Rav said this case where a woman shows up pregnant, a married woman shows up pregnant, Rav says havlad mamzer, and Shmuel says havlad shtuki, they're both actually saying aser. They're not saying mutter. We thought that Rav was saying havlad mamzer and it's mutter, in which case Rav is contradicting himself. It's not a contradiction at all. Both Rav and Shmuel are both saying aser. Rav is calling him a mamzer and saying he's aser. Shmuel is calling him a shtuki and saying he's aser. They're both saying aser. So here's the question. If they're both saying aser, what is Shmuel saying? If Rav and Shmuel are both saying that this kid is aser, because she's a married woman, we statistically assume that the kid's a mamzer, then why is Shmuel calling him a shtuki to say he's aser? Rav says he's aser by calling him a mamzer. Shmuel says he's aser by calling him a shtuki. What is he adding? So the Gemara says, then how is Shmuel different than Rav? They're both saying aser, just Rav is calling him a mamzer, and Shmuel is calling him a shtuki. The Gemara says, yeah. No, so I'm sorry. Rav calls him a mamzer, el de aser b'bas Yisrael, Shmuel meshtuki de aser b'bas Yisrael. They're both actually saying the exact same thing, which is that this kid is not allowed to marry a regular Jew. This kid is either a shtuki or a mamzer. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew. Rav is saying that he's a mamzer. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew. Shmuel is saying a shtuki. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew. Whether he could marry a mamzer or not, that's not what we're discussing. We're just saying like this: a woman shows up pregnant. A married woman shows up pregnant. We don't know who the father is. Rav is going to say the kid's a mamzer. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew. And Shmuel says he's a shtuki. He's not allowed to marry a regular Jew. They're both saying the same thing. A shtuki cannot marry a regular Jew, which is completely unrelated to what we're talking about till now. Perfect. We were having a discussion till now whether a shtuki can marry a mamzer. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about whether this person can marry Yisrael. And the answer is no. Both Rav and Shmuel are saying the same thing. This kid is also to marry Yisrael. See, here's the question. If they're both saying the exact same thing, why is Shmuel chiming in? If they're both saying the exact same thing, what is Shmuel adding? Why is Shmuel calling him a shtuki? They're both saying the same thing. He can't marry Yisrael. So the Gemara says, Elamai shtuki, shemeshaskin oisam edid kahuna. You know what Shmuel was adding by calling him a shtuki? Not just that he can't marry Yisrael, that he does not. He's puzzle for kahuna. He's puzzle for kahuna. This shtuki is mishaskin oisem midin kahuna. That if he wants to be a kohen, we say quiet. Quiet. You're not a kohen. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Does that make sense? Does any of this make sense? Again, the guy comes forward.
Yes.
No. The guy comes forward. He's pregnant. A woman's pregnant. A married woman's pregnant. The kid's a shtuki. Shtuki cannot marry Yisrael. Cannot. Pasul love bekol. So what did Shmuel say? He's a shtuki. He can't marry Yisrael. Why are you calling him a shtuki? Because he's pasul. He can't. He's not a kohen either. He can't marry Yisrael. Of course he's not a kohen. He can't marry any Jew. You're going to tell me he's not a kohen. Of course he's not a kohen. He's pasul from the kahal. He can't marry a kohen, a Levi, or a Yisrael. You have to tell me he's not a kohen. He's like, my dad's a kohen. You don't know who your father is. You're pasul to marry everybody. You have to tell me he's pasul from the kohen. The Gemara says pshita. Hasha b'din Yisrael mishaskin alei b'din kunumi boy. We're quieting him from Yisrael. He can't marry a Yisrael. You can tell me he's a kohen. You have to tell me he's not a kohen. Of course he's not a kohen. He's not even a Yisrael. He's a shtuki. He's much worse. So elamai shtuki shemesheskanoisem midnichsei yavim. You know what meant when we called him a shtuki? Let's say he says, "I want my father's inheritance." We say, "No, quiet, shtuki, quiet." Same problem. He doesn't know who his father is. How could he claim? He gets up one day and he says, "I know who my father is. It's that guy, and I want his inheritance." So the chiddush is, we say, "Quiet." Of course, you don't know who your father is. Of course, we're not going to give you money. The Gemara says, "Pshita." We don't know who his father is. You need a special chiddush to say that if he claims you know who his father is, and he claims inheritance, that we say you don't get to keep it. Of course he doesn't get inheritance. He doesn't know who his father is. The case is where he grabbed it already. Meaning, the case is, he's so confident he knows who his father is, that he broke into the guy's house and took stuff as an inheritance. And the chiddush is, we make him return it. Meaning, we don't just say, we're not sure who your father is, but if you already took it, you could hold on to it. No. Give it back. That's the point. So if this shtuki just convinces himself that Moshe Brown, Moshe whatever, is his father, and Moshe whatever just died, and he broke into the guy's house, and he took a golden menorah, he's like, this is my inheritance. We say, give it back. And we don't just say, you already took it, so you can just keep it. It's a shiloh whether DNA testing helps.
Some would say it helps, or
it's a shiloh. Rabbi has a truth about whether DNA testing will help. Pashas, when it comes to money, you need more than that. But the point is, if whatever, this is before DNA, he just convinced himself. Yeah. The point is, we make him give it back. The Iba Yisema, or one more answer. What did Shmuel mean when he said shtuki? My shtuki beduki. We had this yesterday, that a shtuki is really a beduki. What does that mean? When he called him a shtuki, we're not turning again. I'll tell you what the shtuki is called a beduki. Why did he call him a beduki? We had this yesterday. This is a woman who's pregnant, so we don't know who the father is. So the kid's a shtuki. But Shmuel called him a beduki, meaning, what if you ask the mom, "Do you know who the father is?" And she's like, "Yeah, I totally know." We believe her. Beduki. And this is a shita of Rav Gamliel in Maseches Ksubas. We had this yesterday. Shaboit Genesima, we asked the mother. If she says, "I know who the father is, he's a kosher guy," then you know what the halacha is? He's no longer a shtuki. He's kosher. And that's what it means, shtuki beduki. We ask. Correct, is what we had yesterday, that we believe the mother when it comes to her body. Shtuki is beduki, that we trust her. And the Gemara says, Kiman, who is this like? This is like Rav Gamliel. We had this yesterday, some achleiges tanoim in Ksubis. If a woman shows up pregnant and you say, "Hey, do you know who the father is?" And she says, "Yes, I do." Rav Gamliel says, "Well, we believe you." And Rav Yeshua says, "No, we do not." So this concept that Shmuel is calling him a beduki, that we believe the mom, follows Rav Gamliel in Ksubas. Here's the problem. Shmuel already said that we pass him like Rav Gamliel. Why does he have to say this twice? The Mishnah says, an unmarried woman, a single girl shows up pregnant. And they ask her, "Hey, who's the father?" And she says, it's so-and-so, and he's a kayin kosher. What's the halacha? Rav Gamliel, Rav Elazar, min Amenes. Rav Gamliel says, we believe her, meaning, and the kid's kosher, not a shtuki. Rav Yehuda, Shmuel, halachic Rav Gamliel, and Shmuel said we pass him like Rav Gamliel. So why is Shmuel saying this thing twice? Over here he's saying that we asked the mom, and over there he says we asked the mom. So why is he saying it twice? The reason why is tzricha. Ime hasam hava mina hasam rev ksherim etzla, aval hacham rev psulam etzla, ima loy tzricha. The chiddush over here is that she's married, meaning he said his halacha twice. One is where she shows up pregnant as single. So over there, you could say, listen, statistically, a single girl, the likelihood the kid's a mamzer is not a big deal. So maybe that's why I believe her. Now here's the chiddush. Even if she was married, meaning she had Kiddushin, and she shows up pregnant, we still believe her. That's why he had to say it twice. Okay, from here until the end of the daf, it's very short, it's very simple. And that is, Rav Eliezer's shita is as follows. This is very important. Rav Eliezer in the Mishnah said as follows. Rav Eliezer said that a mamzer can marry a mamzer. Both the same. A shtuki cannot marry a mamzer. A sufi cannot marry a mamzer. It's got to go vadai vadai, not suffik vadai. Okay. Now, so a mamzer can marry a mamzer because they're both the same. A shtuki cannot marry a mamzer, and a sufi can marry a shtuki, and a shtuki can't marry a sufi, and a sufi can't marry a mamzer because they're not the same. They have to be the same. Here's the problem. Tanya v'chein Rav Eliezer oimer kuti lo yisa kutis. Rav Eliezer's shita is that a kuti cannot marry a kuti. Now that's strange. A kuti cannot marry a kuti. Rav Eliezer's shita is that kutim cannot marry each other. No, it's machlekes.
So what's the problem?
Well, we still have an amud left. That's the question. The question is like this: why is Rav Eliezer strict? Rav Eliezer. It's like mamzer mamzeres. They're the same. He normally checks off when they're the same. Kuti kutis should be checked. Why is he strict that a kuti cannot marry a kutis? What's the issue? So this is what we're going to be dealing with until the end of the daf. We're going to try to figure out why is it that it's an issue. My time. Rav Yosef, attempt number 1. Aso keger la'achar asara dairis. It's hard to know exactly why. The halacha is that if a convert has a child, the kid's a convert. Kid can marry a mamzer. And their child, mamzer. Their child can marry a mamzer. Their child can marry a mamzer. Right? A mamzer can marry a ger, according to many Tanaim, and that would mean that if you have one parent's a ger, kid's a ger, can marry a mamzer. Their kid can marry a mamzer. Their kid can marry a mamzer. Right? It doesn't just mean the first generation convert can marry a mamzer. The children of converts can also marry a mamzer.
Is that how we hold?
Yeah, I think so. For 10, no, I don't know, it's machlekes tanaim, I don't know. However, that's only true for 10 generations. After 10 generations, we say stop.
For kuti?
No. Yes, a ger. A ger cannot marry. A ger and their children can marry mamzerim. After 10 generations, Chazal say enough. So you're saying kuti and kutim also Chazal said enough. Problem is, they're not comparable at all. Why is it that a convert after 10 generations cannot marry a mamzer? I'll tell you why, very simply. Let's say I convert. People know that I converted. Right? You could tell I don't look like a Jew, fine. My kids, they know they're the kids of a convert. So if I marry a mamzer, no one's going to bat their eyelash. Okay. My kids marry a mamzer, I was like, okay, fine, he's a convert. Second generation, people are like, yeah, the grandmother was a convert. Okay. 30 generations. Oh yeah, the great-grandmother. Once it's 10 generations, no one even remembers that you're a convert anymore. And you know what it looks like? It looks like a regular Jew is marrying a mamzer. So Chazal said, this is just not a good look for us anymore. But why can't a kuti marry a kutis? Or you want to say the reason why a kuti can't marry a kutis is because even after 10 generations, a ger can't marry a mamzer. That's because after 10 generations, nobody knows you're a convert anymore. So it just looks like you're a regular Jew marrying a mamzer. But a kuti marrying a kutis, what's the issue? Like, why? What's the problem? It's not comparable at all. So the Gemara says, "Gerad asardaris muter b'mazeres mekan ve'chazim mamzeres v'yeshem shetaka shema aviz chacham mimenu." Amar Abaye says, "Me dummy. How do you compare the two? Hasam ger yashin mamzeres nechadasha." Over there, it's because after 10 generations, people forget you're a convert. After 10 generations is it's 300 years. It's 200 something years. No one remembers back 200 years. They're just gonna know you're gonna see a Jew marrying a mamzer. Doesn't look good. But over here, Amri by Yisod, the Kanasim Amzeres. Hacha, Edi ve'edi kutininu. Over here, they're both kutim. What's the problem? So we're back to the original problem. According to Rav Elazar, why could a kuti not marry a kutis? So, Elakiyasa Rav Dimi Omar, here's the chashbon. Attempt number 2.
Again, a kuti can't marry a kusi.
Exactly.
What is the problem?
That's literal. Or they're two converts. Either way, they should be fine. Right. Either a kuti is a guy and let them marry each other, a kuti is a convert, let them marry each other. That's exactly the problem. Why does Rav Eliezer hold that it's an issue? So attempt number 2 is as follows. Rav Eliezer savar la k'Rav Yishmael. Go to the next page. Rav Yishmael savar la k'Rav Akiva. He holds like Rav Yishmael, and Rav Yishmael holds like Rav Akiva. What is this? It's as follows. Rav Eliezer savar la k'Rav Yishmael, the merkuti gera roisim. And there's a famous machlokes Tanoim where kutim. Right, what happened was kutim were brought by Sancheriv into Israel to replace the 10 tribes, and they were attacked by lions. Correct. They took that as a sign from God that they should convert to the God of Israel, and they converted. There's a famous machlokes, was their conversion legit? Did they really be makabel Torah mitzvah, so they just did it because they were afraid of lions? So if you believe that they're legit, they're converts. If you believe they're not legit, they're goyim. Rav Eliezer, who said that a kuti cannot marry a kutis, is because of 2 prongs. He holds A, they're goyim, and B, Rabbi Shmuel Savak Rav Akiva Damar Oivik Chama Eved Abba Bas Yisrael Hava Mamzer. And he believes that if a guy marries a Jew, the kid's a mamzer. So you know what the kutim are? They're a mix, a cholent of goyim and mamzerim. Right? Because a kuti man is a guy. He lives with a man, and Jewish women were marrying kutim throughout history because they were like, oh, they're converts. So think about it. Every kuti started off as a guy. Right? So a kuti woman, guy, lives with a Jewish man. You know what the kid is? No. Kuti woman is a guy. A gaita. Kid's a guy. Right? The mom, you go to the mom. So that kid's a guy. Kuti man marries a Jewish woman, kid's a mamzer. And you have this over like 150, 200, 1,000 years, you have this nice big cholent that the kutim are just a bunch of mamzerim and goyim, and there's no way to know. So a kuti can't marry a kutis because one might be a mamzer and the other one might be a guy. And a mamzer can't marry a guy. And there's no way to know what they are because they're just like a tremendous cholent.
So they can't marry anybody.
They can't marry anybody because you don't know who they are. Because again, the point is, Rav Eliezer holds like Rav Shmuel that they're goyim. And he also holds that if a guy lives with a Jew, a Jewish woman, the kid's a mamzer. So that first generation of kutim were all goyim. So when a kuti woman married a Jewish man, the kid's a guy. Kuti man married a Jewish woman, the kid's a mamzer. And over time, there was just this mix of goyim and mamzerim without being able to tell who's who. And now, if you want a kuti marry a kutis, while they're technically from the same tribe, one could be a guy and one might be a mamzer, or vice versa. And we can't intermarry. That's an intermarriage. Mamzers are still Jews. You know what I'm saying?
So what practically happened during the time period when you had this machlokes?
I have no idea. They guys convert misafik. I have no idea. According to Rav Eliezer, I don't know who they can marry. They can't marry anybody.
But let's say they converted al safik, then you still can't marry them.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. According to Rav Eliezer, they're stuck. But that's the Rav Eliezer shita. So Rav Eliezer holds like Rav Shmuel that the kutim are goyim, and Rav Shmuel holds like Rav Akiva that a guy who lives with a Jew is a mamzer. By the way, the truth is you don't even need that second Rav Akiva. Just stop the fact that they're goyim. You already can't marry each other because some are goyim, some are not. But okay, fine. The point is guy, and then a guy who lives with a Jew is a mamzer.
So they should just disappear. They should.
No, they convert, you said.
Huh?
Convert, you're saying it's something.
Maybe, I don't know. That's my fault. I said maybe that's a good option.
How good does that help? Because that's
Why? Because the Suffolk mamzers, if they're a mamzer, they're Jewish still, and if they're guy, they're at least converted. They can marry other mamzerim.
Is it similar
Yeah,
to
but they can't marry regular.
They can marry a mamzer.
Right, they can't marry.
Oh, but they can marry mamzerim.
So they're stuck.
They can marry converts.
Yeah.
If they convert, they can marry converts. That's probably what they would do.
They'd be allowed to marry other kusim because either the other.
If they all convert misafik, yes. If the whole all the kutim, if I was the rabbi and I heard this, and I would say I take all the kutim and dip them in the mikveh, and that's what I would do. And then they can marry each other because then there's no problem. But anyway, the problem is
It's very similar to what happened in the 80s with the Ethiopians.
they sort of. This is a little more complicated because they have a history.
No, because there with the Ethiopians.
It was a shiloh whether they're Jewish or not.
Right.
Either Goyim or Jewish. Over here, they have a past. They're a combo of Goy and Mamzer.
Oh.
So it's a little bit more of a complicated sholem pot. But I'll say this though, just to finish up the daf. So Rav Eliezer, who says that a kuti cannot marry a kutis, is because he holds like Rabbi Shmuel, that they're Goyim, and Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Akiva. Here's the problem. Rabbi Shmuel does not hold like Rabbi Akiva. Right? We're saying Rav Elazar holds like Rav Shmuel, and Rav Shmuel holds like Rav Akiva. Rav Shmuel does not hold like Rav Akiva. That's a slight problem. The Gemara says, "Umi Savar Rav Shmuel Rav Akiva." There's a Shmuel hold like Rav Akiva that if a guy lives with a Jew, the kid's a mamzer. V'amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel says, how do I know that if a guy lives with a Jewish woman, she's pasal kahuna? Shenemar bas kohen kisial manu grusha v'zera einla. Mishesh amanas v'gerishin yotza avikram ve'evet she'ein amanas v'gerishin. Rabbi Shmuel had to come in again. We're saying Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rav Akiva that if a guy lives with a Jew, the kid's a mamzer. The problem is Rabbi Shmuel once had a drasha to prove that if a guy lives with a Jew, she's pasal kahuna. Let me ask you a question: if you're making a mamzer, do I need to tell you she's pasal kahuna? Again, we're saying Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rav Akiva, that if a guy lives with a Jewish woman, the kid's a mamzer. The problem is Rabbi Shmuel once had this whole drasha to prove that if a guy lives with a Jewish woman, she's pasal kahuna. Ooh. If he holds the kid's a mamzer, do I need to tell me she's pasal kahuna? Imagine Rabbi Shmuel comes in. Again, you tell me Rabbi Shmuel holds, I find out that a guy lives with a Jewish woman. I say, hey, the kid's a mamzer. And then Rabbi Shmuel comes in, he says, I'll tell you, she's pasal kahuna. I'm like, pasal kahuna? Kid's a mamzer. It's way worse. We're way past that. So if Rabbi Shmuel has to have a drasha to tell me that she's pasal kahuna, it means the kid's not a mamzer. The Gemara says, that doesn't work. So rather, okay, slight amend. Rav Elazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and Rav Elazar holds like Rav Akiva. Not that Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rav Akiva, Rav Elazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel, and Rav Elazar holds like Rav Akiva. Elo, Rav Elazar savar like Rabbi Shmuel, damar kuti geir arayos, this savar like Rav Akiva, and Rav Elazar holds like Rav Akiva, damar avikam ve'evet ababas yisrael blad mamzer. So here's the deal. Rav Elazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel, that kutim are goyim, and Rav Elazar holds like Rav Akiva, that if a guy lives with a Jew, the kid's a mamzer. Here's the issue. Mi savar like Rav Elazar Rav Akiva. Does Rav Elazar hold like Rav Akiva? He doesn't. Hamar Rav Elazar, afi b'shenechku b'shama b'sil b'tzarais, moedim she'ein mamzer l'misha yisurei yisur erva vanish karis. Rav Elazar b'feirir said that both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree. A mamzer is someone from kares, not a guy. Here's the issue. We're back to the original problem. Rav Elazar said that a kuti cannot marry a kutis. So we said, why? So we said, well, because Rav Elazar holds like Rabbi Shmuel that kutim were goyim, and he holds like Rav Akiva that if a guy lives with a Jew, the kid's a mamzer. The answer is, the problem is, he doesn't hold like Rav Akiva. So scratch all of that. Back to the original problem. Why is it that Rav Elazar holds that a kuti cannot marry a kutis? So we're going to start this Gemara. We're not going to finish it. We'll take this really to tomorrow. Okay. Elo ki asa Ravin Amar Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan v'Amri lo Amar Rav Abba bar Zavda Amar Rav Chanina v'Amri lo Amar Rav Yaakov bar Idi Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Shalosh machloikes bedavar. There are three ways to look at kutim. Okay, we're trying to figure out why does Rav Elazar hold that kutim cannot marry kutis. So here's the deal. There are three ways to look at kutim. 1, 2, and 3. The main reason that we're going to be focusing on is number 3, and that's tomorrow. I'll just do the first 2 today. Why is it that you cannot marry a kutis? So, I'm talking about a regular Jew. Forget about kuti with kutis. Just in general, what's the issue with kutim? 3 opinions. And the third one is going to be relevant to our discussion, but we're just going to focus on the first 2 today. Number 1, so again, you're a Jew. I'm not talking about, forget about kuti. You're a Jew, you want to marry a kutis. There are still, I think, kutim in Israel. There's still some like crazy kutim that live somewhere. Shiloh, I think, is their base on Mikdash. Freaking nuts. But so why is it that you can't marry a kutis? There's 3 issues with kutim. Let's go with number 1. Rav Shmuel savar kuti ger royeshem. V'kehanim shenit behem kehanim psulim hayu. First opinion, Rav Shmuel, which we had before, kutim are goyim. Okay, so that's pretty easy. If you want to marry a kuti, you want to know what the problem is? They're goyim. They had kehanim who joined them. Kehanim married into the kutim. The answer is those kehanim were pasal. All the pasal kehanim joined the goyim. But the point is, so according to this, number 1 issue with kutim, I'm not forget about kutis, just in general, they're goyim according to Rabbi Shmuel, because they converted for the wrong reason. Okay. Shenemar vayasil miktsoisim kehanim bamis. The pasuk says the kutim made the ktsoisim, some of them kehanim. They took some of the kehanim and made them as the priests of their Beis Hamikdash, whatever. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan Rav Yochanan min akutzim shabam. You know what I mean? It's kaitzim. Kaitzim doesn't mean miktsaisam. Not some of them. Kaitzim. They took the thorns. They took all the kehanim that were pasal, all the kehanim that were chalalim. They joined the kutim. But the main issue with kutim is their goyim. Straight up that. The number 1 issue with kutim according to Rabbi Shmuel is their goyim. Rav Akiva has a very interesting problem with kutim.
He doesn't hold them the Gregaris.
No, the guy. Rav Akiva disagrees. Rav Akiva said, no, kutim geriyem is him. No, kutim are good. They converted for the right reason. The kehanim has been kayam kshirim, and the kehanim that joined them were kosher kehanim. So according to Rav Akiva, they're legit gerim. So why can't we marry kutim? Shenemar v'yas lehem miktsoisim kayani bamis from Rechanim Rav Yechanim na bechirim shabam. The bechirim, the best of the kehanim, joined them. So according to this, the kutim are legit Jews. So what's the issue? Here's the issue. It's so random. Kutim don't believe in the oral Torah. So here's the issue.
So their Geras is no good.
No, but let's say maybe they accepted at the time the oral Torah, the written Torah at the time. But over time it devolved. No, so it's not funny. I don't know why. This is so much more random. I could have heard that one. Here's the deal. The Kutim made a decision. You know how every married woman that the husband dies childless has to do yibum? And they can't marry other people. There's a law for them to marry other people unless they do yibum or chalitza. They felt that yibum or chalitza only applies to a woman that did Kiddushin, not to a woman who actually was married. So if you had two wives, right? You had two women. Both have husbands who died, childless. One just did Kiddushin. One was fully married to him for 10 years. The Kutim, we would say, both need Yibam and Chalitza, right? Both. The Kutim are like, just the Kiddushin one. The other one, you're fine. No Yibam or Chalitza for you. Whatever. It's a random opinion that they had. Wrong. Here's the problem. According to Rav Akiva, all Chayvei Lavin are a mamzer. That means that they were sending out women who's supposed to do Yibam and Chalitza all the time without Yibam or Chalitza. That created mamzeres. That was the issue with Kutim. The Gemara says, what's the issue with Kutim if they legit converted? They felt there's only Yibam for a woman that did Kiddushin, but a woman who was fully married, no need for Yibam or Chalitza. Which is about the exact opposite of what you think, because they built a home together. You'd think that she would really need to rebuild. And what was their cheshbon? My darshu. What was their pasuk? The pasuk says that she should not marry. That she has to do yibam or chalitza. She can't marry an outsider. The only woman who can't marry someone else was an outsider, someone who just had kedushin. But a woman who had nisuin, a woman who's fully married, no need for yibam or chalitza. Go free, nothing. Here's the problem. That's a woman who's not allowed to marry other people with a lav. So they would just tell her to go.
So they felt.
If a woman was fully married, you have a husband and wife, they're married for 5 years, and the husband dies childless, everyone would say, Yibam or Chalitza. They were like, nah, you're fine. Go, bye-bye. Yibam or Chalitza only applies if you just had Kiddushin, not if you had Nisuin. So they're like, bye-bye. Huh? They made a drasha with a pasuk. They're wrong. They're stupid. I don't know. So the point is that they were 100% wrong. Here's the problem. They're sending away a lot of women who should have Yibam or Chalitza. It's a lav. It's lo saseh for her to marry other people. Rav Akiva Shita is lo saseh makes a mamzer. So Kutim were full of mamzer. Because then she marries someone else who she's not allowed to. It's a lo saseh. According to Rav Akiva, a lo saseh is a mamzer. So they're making mamzerim. The Gemara says, correct. Rav Akiva dilatame dami yesh mamzer b'chayu lavin. Now that's the second issue with Kutim. The third one we'll save for tomorrow. I'll stop here. We'll pick it up tomorrow. I'll review on Shabbos this last little bit.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I was told that there is a